Welcome to this vanilla street epistemology today. Today's a little special. We have two guests, Dr. Fanny Anzai, whom we've spoken to before, and Hooky Steelman, or Hooky, whom I've been working with for several months on the Street Epistemology Discord. He is one of my go-to interviewers, and now I get to share him with you. Unmute,
hello.
Yes, and tell us about yourselves. Hooky first.
Thank you very much for having me, Dali, again. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, so thank you for having me. First time here. I'm a little bit nervous because I've done SE lots of times, but never recorded or live, so bear with me.
So, welcome. And nice to meet you. Okay. It's first
Yeah,
time
same.
we're gonna talk. Brought my little Santa hat, so Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays to whoever you guys celebrate, and
Yeah.
better, best wishes, a better 2021 for all of us.
Yeah, that's a good wishes. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, so are you enjoying the festivities, Christmas? Looking forward to a new year?
Yes, definitely. I celebrate more than before now just because I have a 3 years old daughter. And so just to pass down like the mythical celebrations and, legends, people believe those things and we enjoy the parties.
Right, yeah, with children, it gets like a whole different new meaning, right, and importance.
I think it's a fun conversation. It's not what we apparently planned here, but I usually do that. I shift the conversation. But I think everybody has talked about online about the war on Christmas. And me as an atheist, that is even like a little bit of an activist on that sense, some people look, and cringe of me spending the entire December celebrating. And I do all the celebrations, like, not really going through too much, animating little animals or making my daughter believe they are real. But I will present her like, this is elf, this is reindeer, this is Santa, these are the stories. Play, she has watched the Rudolph movies and TV shows, everything, all the samples. And I actually think I defend a lot of the secular atheists in that sense, because the difference between me and other members of the family that are strong evangelicals and orthodox in their evangelical traditions, they will not let their kids celebrate Christmas with the other kids.
Right.
Different from me, that's going to be actually presenting here, and there's nothing of supernatural being presented here more than, people believe those things, people believe Santa and stuff. We write letters, it's practical in the sense, your parents will know what you want for Christmas.
Right, and also it does have some supernatural.
You don't need to
quality
cancel Christmas.
Right, right.
Say no to cancel culture, basically.
and also it has some supernatural nature, but for children, I suppose that's fine, right? It's different than beliefs in adults, right?
Well, I even would say it all depends on the way that you present it. And, I had this conversation, or I tried to have this conversation with some family members, and it went really bad. People said that they were offended of me confronting their beliefs, their personal beliefs, and feeling personally offended about me sometimes questioning for example, other side of the family that would do the same things. We build the trees, we talk about Christmas, the gifts, the Santa, put the ornaments and the tree together. It's a moment for me, at least, as my parents did, very secular in the same way. We had a moment to celebrate more family. It's vacations in Brazil. We out of school, so we are staying more at home. And instead of being just like that moment apart, kids have their stuff and parents have their, we have more of a moment together. I think that I saw my parents doing that, and I see a value on that of getting the family together and celebrate, get together to what you're gonna cook, what you're gonna serve, what you want for your wishes for your presents, and let's buy stuff and let's make little things. Big families, as my mother's family side, we would have like more of each one buy one thing or do the name changing. It was called, I don't know how English people call that, is the secret friend in
Secret
Portuguese.
Santa? Or...
Oh yeah, it might be something like that. So we just like have like 30 people. Of course, not everybody's gonna give to each other. So we do like one gift to each, and we select the names the week or the before. It's fun, and we get together. We have that excuse to get together. It's most of the times I never really heard anybody talking about God, Jesus, or anything.
Right.
For me, for quite some time, trying to understand all the dynamics of the beliefs, people's beliefs, and I have had refused, at least when they presented to me that supernatural crazy things. For me, that's like, as someone created the universe, and I was like, okay, I didn't buy that, it's okay. I believe, I understand that people wanted to understand how things were created, and not necessarily has to have been created, but for me, it was metaphorical stories, trying to understand the world and how the things became to exist, and is a totally fine existential question, but I was more into like, this Santa and Jesus, maybe they are the same guy, this guy in the sky that will present you, will give you gifts if you're good and punish you if you're bad, So I was not like really into that, but I liked the parties. It was the moment that we would travel to one side of the family or the other, and we would enjoy. So I defend Christmas in that sense, and I kind of saw that happening into my personal life and coming out of religious as traditions, as supernatural beliefs, because for example, my mom suffered a lot when I said I was not a Catholic anymore, that I was just a spiritualist, and that I would believe ghosts and souls and stuff like that. Then later, she felt even worse when I think, or not so bad, but still, you getting away from God, becoming an atheist, and that will affect the next generations. That was her belief. And I was like, in which sense? And it talked about morals and even about teachings. And I was like, no, now I'm free here being an atheist, because I can actually celebrate more holidays than just the Judeo-Christian ways to celebrate. Not necessarily Christmas. I can celebrate Hanukkah or whatever other thing you celebrate, and I would be much more inclined now to teach her all those things as fun, interesting, things that people believe, than to avoid her to have contact with those things, and shield her, her mind, at least. I'll give her the tools to be able to, in the future, if she decides to, I don't know, become a nun and go to church, Catholic, whatever.
She's free to do that.
Like there, I was like, okay, I gave you the tools, you do whatever. You threw everything away and decide to be part of the church. Okay, maybe you have some other reasons that make you. But I think, in the sense of defending secular atheists, I think we have that in our side more than I see evangelical pastors to be in my family that will say, no, we're not going to celebrate Christmas. No, right. And when it comes to Halloween, my mom already questions, okay, how it's going to happen when the kids go to school? And like, oh, they are going to quit. They're going to skip the day because they don't celebrate that. And my mom was like, oh, it's just another holiday and it's another celebration. No, that is devil's parties. And then my mom is like, back to what she before believed, like, you know what? I had to take that back. Being a secular atheist is not the end of the world. And it's probably even better than what she believed to be like the ideal religious person. She was like, something to look up to, and now she's like, yeah, no, it's not
It's like more freedom, right? For children, for example, if you raise them that way,
It
they
falls
can.
under the conversation. It's always about freedom.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think it's about give people knowledge to make their own decisions. And government wants to be those parents that want to indoctrinate the child and say like, no, you look up here. Here is the answer. This is the truth. Instead of let you look around and find, through scientific and curiosity and tools that everybody could apply, they cut that off of you and give you the right answer, the easy right answer.
Surely many people are not maybe don't have the expertise or the time or whatever, right? Or the education to maybe explore those things, right? So for example, if the government imposes, right, some position about
I would
whatever,
not say that most of people don't have the capacity or the knowledge. I think most of people would have not lost or have had cut from them the curiosity. And that is one of the parts of, I think, is the evil indoctrination when it happens on kids. Is because the easy answer is like, don't answer anymore. Don't question anymore. Just
right
answer.
It's forbidden to question, right? So
yeah.
So the example that comes to mind, I was told you're interested in the topic of masks in the context of the pandemic and whatnot, right? So applying what you were just saying, so would it be fair to say that the government is doing that, for example, with, when enforcing the use of masks, do you think?
Well, yeah, I guess so. It's difficult to say what is the principle to take here, because we understand that the masks would reduce the risk of infections, but now it comes to many factors of which type of masks, how would be that in, I would be more critical on the position of the enforcement of the authoritarian measure. I'm always standing that, yes, I understand that everybody's looking up to someone, and even the responsibility tries to fall in, people try to push the responsibility to the government in the end, say like, oh yeah, the mayor or the president or, someone should have done something after the bad things happen. But, and then I understand the politicians are suffering this pressure, this popular pressure as well. So they feel like they need to do something. So it's, it's a swing. It's nobody's really fault. But there is something faulty when we keep like just listening to the same stuff that is just a scary narrative and not talking maybe more reasonably about what we should be focusing. Is really in the death rate that is an overestimated number, or in all the other evidence that's a much bigger and positive, optimistic in a perspective for the disease in general. But somehow, like, it just, I don't know, maybe there is someone gaining on people staying at home, and then there is, I don't like that, because maybe there is, sounds very conspiratory. So until some real evidence that someone did anything on purpose, I would not say that. But I don't know, it could be just like everybody's kind of a little lazy in the end, and is a little bit truth of what South Park said about the corona South.
What was that?
Have you watched that? The South Park about corona? Oh, you need to see the COVID. Should I not say the word? Because I have heard that can be like negative for the algorithm. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't care about the algorithm.
I forgot about.
You can say it.
I don't care about it at all. Go ahead.
Coronavirus.
So I'll watch the episode. And I do that all the time too. So it's terrible.
So now I'm curious. What was the what happened in the South Park episode?
Oh, I think it's more like a little bit of explain that there's some more individual selfish purposes could be a lot of what guides people to support this those authoritarian measures of like, yeah, you have to lock down and people are not allowed to even work. And some lazy people are like, you know what? I like to be at home and not go to work. So, yeah,
Right.
go Corona, go fight against Corona, something like that.
Okay. So I'm curious about when you mentioned this, the scary narrative, because I remember when the pandemic started, a famous YouTuber doctor that I follow, Dr. Mike. Maybe you heard of him. He used to say all the time, "Alert, not anxious," and he tried to keep people calm, try to not foster all these catastrophe feelings, right? And he tried to calm people down. And do you feel like sometimes the media or the government or whatever are not doing that and maybe blowing things out of proportion when you talk about scary narrative?
Oh no, I totally think so. Yeah, I follow one of the doctors have talked about Corona since the first day of Corona. By middle of January, I was completely full of like all the informations, and I made a few talks on my show with a friend of mine, Tyrone Wills, that he has the Let's Chat, a street epistemology group as well. And we talked because he works in a company that makes masks. We talked about how the use of masks could somehow ultimately increase the risk of infections, then decrease, as people use in a very bad manner. If you usually
Right.
see, they touch their face much more when they are wearing the mask. They hang, like, I go to my parking, do my garage now, and there's like, it's like petri dishes of bacteria hanging on their dashboards, so it's amazing. So if there was a reason for us to really wear, it would be more even to not wear. And we went through all that, went through even like I've talked a little bit about vaccines, but I think what would be maybe scary for a lot of people that want to rely individual responsibility on government would be that I'm a libertarian at the level that I would not support the government of taking any authoritarian measure, even if it was a, I don't know, 10% death rate. And I'm throwing really high. But we're talking about a disease that has been overestimated death rate, and 1%, let's say high, when what high in the case, the worst scenarios, conditions, patient with comorbidities and everything, okay? Now, why I would say that is just because I believe the individual, each one of us, we care about our health, and we care, yes, about our neighbors and other people's health naturally, without need the government to force us to do it. And I believe that we would be all, bathing in alcohol gel, not getting out of the house, wearing the proper masks in the proper way. If it was a disease like Ebola, no government would be necessary to do anything, to force us anything. So it doesn't need. My principles of libertarianism is that the people, they can take care of us by themselves.
Okay, I see.
And take the risk.
So if I hear you correctly, you are more of the view of if the disease was bad enough, then people would be able to self-manage, and we would take the precautions as we saw needed. And in that case,
and I would expect the government as well, if the government, a good government, that is the hypothetical thing now.
Okay.
Now, if the government would really work in a sense to protect us from our decisions, but being libertarian, letting us do what we want, we would have a year of conversation of Corona with many more hospitals, many more health workers, system prepared to take the patients that took the risk of getting sick. But now we always, what we see all around the globe, all across the globe, is Government's telling you to stay at home for almost a year, expecting people to not get sick because they still not prepared for everybody to
Right.
get sick, and they should, in a disease that doesn't even have that such an infection rate. And that's ridiculous.
interesting.
So it's like in 1 year, 1% of the population. How long are we gonna be playing this ridiculous game? And why we politicizing Corona and not other diseases that could be even worse? So I kind of a pessimistic for the future. Not right now.
I mean, probably they are doing it with other things. Maybe it's less obvious, perhaps, right? The government profiting somehow or controlling people somehow.
It sounds, yeah. What I hear, at least around Canada, is like we had all the lockdowns and preparing to not get the disease, but not prepared for disease. It's still places where we're not even that dense in here, and it got a little bit of Corona, and the hospitals are full. And it's like, okay, so what you have done for a year after just telling us to not get sick? Oh, you just told us to not get sick. There's no more hospitals. There are no more beds. There is no more, build the place. If you take I bet you could, with so much masks, propaganda, even on YouTube. I guess they could put someone in the hospitals and employ more people, or something, anything more realistic change than scare people with a disease that's not that deadly, but will definitely kill a lot of people economically, financially, and in real life, because you talk about people starving, and the fame is going to be much worse than Corona could have been.
Well, and that's not a new problem also, right? And poverty and all many other kind of universal issues. We don't see the government like taking this, dramatic action.
No, we're talking about the results of the Corona lockdowns. We talk about what the forecast, like what they are previewing to be the decrease of production in food and distribution.
Oh, I see. I see.
So not even speaking about all the other deaths of the surgeries, lines of surgeries for cancer or heart disease that completely passed out of the time to be cured or treated. And now people with cardiac disease that just went to cardiac arrest and died because they did not have their surgeries. Many more. So suicides and so many others that are being probably even counted as Corona deaths. So they can Corona up the number and scare a little bit more.
That's a point that I've heard before, and I'm curious about it. So where do you draw the boundary between, let's say someone who had previously health issues, right? Someone with poor health that then got pushed, to the brink. They got worse because of Corona. Should we count that as a Corona death or not? What's your view on that?
Well, this is very complicated because in many cases it just depends on the doctor that's gonna sign the papers and how it's gonna decide to declare. Yeah.
There's no uniform protocol.
What I would expect that right now they're doing is like as soon as you have a positive test for Corona, it's gonna be Corona related, and during the period, maybe even other tests that are not straight related to Corona would be related to Corona. We have the main problem on the counting, I don't think is even on the death, but more on the counting of people infected as well, because they like to say like, oh, more people are getting infected, when sometimes we have people being retested. So they are not new cases.
Oh.
And they are being counted as like, oh, today we counted another 20 cases. Like, okay, how many people from those 20 new cases were just testing from a week ago?
And could that be
or third test?
Could that be incompetence, or do you think it's more like an orchestrated attempt to inflate things?
Oh, I don't think it's orchestrated. Like I mentioned to you, I think I'm very skeptic about anything being planned to, that the virus was lab made. I'm very skeptic about those claims that they made it in lab, they released on purpose. Is the idea of China destroying the West? Like, it makes sense in a in a fictional crazy story. Like, yeah, of course it works, but without evidence, I would say this is all conspiracy theory. I maybe the scaring people could have people gaining with this. If there is people that really control the media, it would make sense that the media sells this for who pays advertisement in there. That's in the big companies are the ones that definitely are kind of more immune to this financial crisis that the corona is causing. So maybe, I don't know if you heard of the talk about media companies in the sense that they want people to lock down for selling more, Netflix and all this other stuff.
I haven't, but that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is just like they're very personal interest, and so it's a little bit of mismanagement, and I think different personal groups interests. And today with globalization in the internet, you just throw whatever online, becomes viral. If it's conspiracy, it probably goes viral much easier. So
Yeah, people love that stuff and they share it. And sure, like Netflix could, or who was it? Like Jeff Bezos, who people said, yeah, he got much richer with the pandemic, so that looks fishy and could be a coincidence, right? Could be.
Look, we can understand that the big corporations and the big stores, that still open because they sell the basic needs stuff, and they actually just sell the same stuff that the small guys sell. But that is one of the things a lot of the independent media on YouTube has shown recently. I don't know if you saw the case of that Viva Fry, Flecas, Nuance. Everybody's talking about that lady in United States that she had her restaurant shut off because of health COVID measures, and then they opened the next door that big, pretty much like hair restaurant, and that was okay. So it comes to like not even in the level that I think they want to break some people down and give benefits other companies, but I understand that in some level the big companies are benefited because you see like some Costco, Walmart, those are the ones that still open, and the little convenience stores, many of them had to close doors and are going to go out of business. These people are going bankrupting because they don't even have a reserve to survive for it so long closed, and not getting any support.
And then regardless of whether this is planned to some extent or just by chance, either way, you're saying
it's
that
definitely
something should be done?
People. No, it's definitely harming people. So in that level, I think I think the government should step backwards. But it's really difficult to say like, oh, government, can you please just go out? You're an uninvited guest. I think we the people that invited and gave it so much power, we need to tell them, no, okay, go back to your place. When we need you, we're gonna ask you. But no, we want recommendations from the WHO, and we want help from the government in the sense of infrastructure and people. And if whatever there is public health, please put more effort to make it better. And if we get sick, but no, let us decide in the individual personal level if we're going to go out with masks or not, and don't force the establishments to force us to wear either. Okay, so let more freedom. If the business wants, then they can make their own decisions, and the clients can decide to go or not.
Okay, I'm curious how you see
free market.
Sorry, say again.
Free market.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm curious about, regardless of the market part and the economic impact that you mentioned, I'm more interested maybe in the implications of the mask mandate and whatnot, and how it compares to other mandates in the government, right? So, for example, I'm thinking, it's forbidden by law to get drunk and go driving, right?
Yeah.
And also usually driving without wearing a seatbelt, right? So
Yeah.
in those cases, for example, and
I
I'm
should
not
not
saying.
have that either.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
that is another thing I would. Yeah, okay, they do that already. Maybe should be one of the things we should step back to. The government should not have nothing to do with people. I understand the recommendation. Hey, don't drink and drive because you have more chance to get in an accident.
Mhm.
Now is working to find people when you get them drunk driving. Apparently it's working. Government likes, they make money when they get. Apparently some people cannot realize that best way if we're living their lives, they would get a taxi after drinking by themselves. I don't know. Still don't know. Education better than punishment, and keep the punishment whenever someone gets hurt for real. No, it's more like the gun control idea. That would be one of the topics. Is like, no, let people have whatever gun they want, because sometimes if they really want to hurt someone, they will hurt them with a rock,
Right.
with a
Right.
knife, with something else, with a rope, with their own hands, bare hands. Now, if they get the guns and hurt someone, yeah, we already have a bunch of things we can do with them, because that's under our own constitution. We protect people's lives, and even if there is nobody to claim your dead body, government goes there and arrests me if I was the one that did that. But when the process of arresting me is like, they need to prove before the judge that I did, and if they don't have proof, I go free. That's what happens all the time. That is our judicial system, is how it works already. And I just like saying, like, you see, we only punish people when they can't prove they hurt people. So we don't pre-punish people. It comes back to my idea all the time to like philosophically think of like that movie, Minority Report. You know that one?
Yeah.
Because it's like, that only works because they had some supernatural powers, and they knew the people would definitely do that. They deterministically would end up doing that, and then they punished them in retrospect before. But that would never really work, in the sense. It's like, we always have the chance to change our minds and do different. So it's like, you always have to let the people free to do, and when they do it, then you punish them, and not before.
So you wouldn't support an idea of like Minority Report in real life, considering again that technology was supposed to be like flawless, right?
I would not support Minority Report, even if it was in real life, even if they claim they had supernatural powers, because I would say like, wow, you standing on the philosophical position that it is what they're going to do deterministically is like no choice. And I would be like, no, maybe let's let them do it till the last second and see if they want to, and stop right there. So maybe set to stop right there and not even before.
Would
I don't know.
it be correct to say that makes sense? So would it be correct to say that you value individual freedom a lot?
Oh yeah, no. I think the individual freedom is the purpose of the government. The government is there to defend the smallest minority. That is the individual.
Yeah. Let me jump in for just a moment. For those who have not seen Minority Report, you're making for me is a really excellent hypothetical. But if somebody hasn't seen the movie, they don't know what you just said. Would you like me to try to summarize the movie?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Okay. So in Minority Report, we have these precogs, these three unusual humans that are stuck in a matrix-like environment where when they recognize something about to happen, in this I think the murder and rape were the two things that they could precog. And if they saw a murder going to come up, they would send people in very quickly to arrest them and prevent the murder. Okay, go ahead.
So I find it really interesting that you wouldn't support that, Fanny, because I wonder, in your view, do you think most people agree with you that they wouldn't like a minority report situation in the real world? What do you think? Generally speaking, the majority of people would want. Do you think they would agree or disagree with you?
Oh, I think majority of people disagree with me today. In
Mm.
many of my, and not just the minority report, but in the libertarian position.
Right, which is kind of connected, right, in a sense.
Yeah, because what I see that when I talk to even close friends and family, that they believe we should be forcing people to do or not do a lot of things for the sake of a greater good, And I was like, no, that is almost religious to me to have this position. It's and for me, it's condescending on the sense that yes. These people would not like to hear that. It's like, yeah, I recognize that maybe we're going to have a problem of having low IQ and less, you know, philosophical thinking, knowledgeable capacity, as you mentioned. But I still think we are able to do it. And it's better if we can teach them how to think and be moral by their actions and by individualism than to teach them just don't do this, follow these 10 rules, and don't try to understand, don't try to think, just do it. That is condescending, is bad, and it's not the way that we're going to make our society better. Like I think we grow our growth as humans.
I see.
I think it's part of our evolution is to talk, to speak up our mind in that way and try to connect as having some type of objective moral that is objective, that is everybody by themselves in their own personal experience can figure out that it's better not to kill and steal because they don't want to be killed or stolen from.
Right. Well, you do have a percentage of the population that lack that awareness, right? Like, for example, sociopaths, psychopaths, there are a couple of percent of the population which have that condition. And
we always want to deal with problems. That one of the things I'm not never praise is that we are going to get rid of racists, rapists, murders, bad things and bad people will always happen. That is one of the parts of the reality.
And it just changes how you deal with that, right? So, for example, now the government maybe intervenes a lot, kind of like Minority Report, so to speak, in a way, although not exactly. But then you could also give more freedom, right? More freedoms, maybe allow people to drunk drive or to own more guns and whatnot. So crime and all that stuff.
I don't think it's more like, I think it's a different thing than say like we're gonna. No, I think it's right. You're saying like allow people to drunk drive, to have guns. Yeah, give people more rights. With rights come more responsibility. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that. Okay. And that is the thing. So you're gonna have a gun, you register a gun. There is some type of regulation still. So I can't claim I'm a libertarian. Many people sometimes get mad at me saying that I'm a libertarian because they believe libertarians are anarchists. And I would love to see one day in the future, for me, realistic speaking, too far for me to see. But it is something that I think is achievable. So it's like... Sorry?
What's up?
Did I hear something? Oh, yes.
The glass is drawing the focus of your camera.
Oh, the glass in front of the camera.
The drinking glass.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, if I hear you right, maybe humankind, maybe the society currently might not be fully able to handle this level of freedom that you seek, but that's only because we have been what's the word, like overprotected maybe by the state or the government, or maybe because you mentioned they killed our curiosity.
It was natural. I think it was a natural step. We needed because it changes in the evolution of things we have seen. It's like a pendulum. So we go sometimes way far on one side, trying to overprotect, be authoritarian. That gonna break into a revolution for people to be more liberal. Okay. That has happened quite sometimes, but because we are on the top, on the front line of the time space, so we are more evolved than any other civilization before. And we look back and say, nobody was so libertarian and as we envision. It's like, yeah, because we are going to be the ones doing it. We're going to be the ones giving the first steps, and we understand there are baby steps. It's not going to go from here to full libertarianism, anarchism. No, it's not going to work. It would not work. We understand that, and that's when we need more, Ron Pauls and reasonable libertarians that understand the principles that we need to follow and attach to them, and be very secular and very non-group mentality. We are all humans. We are all the same. We treat everybody the same. We have the same rights. But the rights are very little, the rights that the government is defending from you. Most of things you're going to have to go get. And the government as a support and not as a father and mom.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned group mentality. I'm curious, do you think that libertarians also engage in some sort of group mentality, or is kind of an exception in a way?
No, that is one of the things that I think we have the problem, or I see myself entering groups that have exactly that problem, that don't have a group mentality or doesn't have a body. When you talk about atheists, it's like herding cats. They are just atheists. They just don't believe God. What else they believe? Some believe karma. Some believe in nothing. Some are completely atheists, agnostics, and don't believe in any deity. Others call themselves atheists, agnostics, and believe fairies. No, so how do you make a group and you make a leader? So it's what lacks from those groups that I'm kind of a part. Is when you get out of groups, you become these people like me that don't have groups, I guess. And libertarians are like this. They are just refusing the left and right. They want more freedom from the government and want more individual rights. Of course, we help each other individual levels. We make friends. We help neighbors. We give each other stuff. We want to do charity, but we don't want to have given. We don't want forced charity. We don't want the government to come and steal money from us, call it taxations, and give to whoever they think it's better to receive. Because charity... Oh, sorry. Yeah, let you speak.
Yeah, so for example, if one person in your country wants to pay some taxes to help the poor and whatnot, then that person maybe will be happy with the government doing that, right?
No, and I think I actually have one answer for example, all the taxations that I always piece in Brazil, because how would you be forced to pay for these services if you have to contract all these services privately? One of my complaints in Brazil. You should have something that you can opt out. So when it comes to Obamacare or whatever, Trudeau's care, you want to force and give free health to everybody or education, my family should be able to no, thank you very much. I want a health plan. I want a private health plan. And I should be able to opt out on my taxes and pay a little bit less to put that money into paying for a private health plan. The same way with security and anything else. Of course, there are infrastructure that we are all using. So there is a minimum taxation that would be for everybody. And that should be for everybody. Doesn't matter how much money you make. But I'm even for one step towards not have taxations, would have one tax only and not have progressive taxes. I have entire plans. I'm not planning on becoming a politician. But as everybody that thinks a lot of politics and politicians, I think that they should be writing all these ideas down and making it better, for sure.
Yeah. And some people join into politics for that, to improve the quality of life of society and whatnot, and defend whatever they value, right? But so I'm curious about your perspective on all the rest of people. You mentioned some of your opinions are kind of unpopular, And I see a common thread, right, of libertarianism in a way between the masks opinion and the whatnot. So, do you think?
Gun control.
Yeah, gun control.
How is the gun control gonna have? Yeah, no. For example, I understand that we don't have freedom right now. We have to register. There is all a system, even in Brazil, that they actually passed through a referendum that was proposed, that was actually contraposed by the actual president, Bolsonaro. He was the only guy standing for the guns rights in 2010 when they did the referendum. It didn't pass. Most of people vote negative, but most of people gave their guns away with a good intentions. Everybody's like, yeah, sure, I'm going to give guns away if it's bad to have guns at home. And then the criminality went up because now the bandits know they don't have guns in the house. And now we are in between the bandits and the police. And that's what I keep yelling to all the Americans, North Americans, Canadians, and United States. Don't do it. Don't give your guns away.
Giving away the guns.
The bandits and the criminals are not going to follow those rules. They don't follow the registration of the guns, and they are not going to give their guns away. So why honest people that are just trying to defend themselves would do it? It's fucking dumb. But we did that best in Brazil. That's okay. That's why in Brazil we have this expression: the hell is full of good intentions.
Oh yeah, I see. So in your example, criminals, I mean, I suppose it relates to what I mentioned earlier of bad actors, of sociopaths, whatever, people who break any rules, whatever rules we're talking about, right? So I guess I'm curious about. I think you're saying giving away all the guns was a bad idea, probably, right? Because it kind of crime went up and whatnot. So would it make sense for the government to maybe try to push the population towards having more guns, or just more in general? Do you think?
I think the government should not do anything with guns more than registration. So it's like it's not going to be a stop line. Of course, we're going to require, because we know IQ is necessary even for you to enter to the army, because you're going to have access to guns, and we understand there are levels. And I'm not trying to offend anybody.
No, that's okay.
The word imbecility of not be able to really deal with a gun. Okay, so of course we need to pass some background and check, and that is very non-libertarian. Yes, I understand, but that is the minimum requirement for us to start. Like, let's give you guns away. We know whose guns is. If you get stolen, if you lose it, it's a gun. We need that to try to track. And that is how we can actually try to be able to reduce the illegal guns. Go after those, get those criminals, and only good people. Because the same way that people think, guns are going to kill people. No, guns are going to save people. So many other situations. And, in the other side of the narrative that people want to have guns, they have much more evidence of actually we should have guns on good people's hands to stop the bad guys until the police can get into the place when bad things happen.
Okay, I see. So I'm curious about the how it is possible to combine or articulate this worldview that you share and this intense value of individual freedom, right, with the other people who maybe disagree with your specific view. So in a way, what I see is many people want a government that imposes some rules and enforces masks and whatnot, right? Many people want that, right? And maybe in your view that's kind of wrong, but they prefer that, right? So those people should also have a freedom, right? And they should also have the liberty to choose what kind of country they want to live in and what kind of amount of state intervention there should be, and all this stuff, all these political opinions and decisions. So I'm wondering, trying to impose a bit more libertarian structure, wouldn't that kind of disrespect the individual freedoms of everyone else, kind of?
Well, now we come to like my next step of my thinking of like what would be the natural evolution of society as humans in groups. And I believe it might happen in the United States before, just because of the independence that the independency that each state has from each other, and that there is like this nationwide like freedom that you guys do whatever you want. The federal level will take care of something, but you guys decide. I believe we're gonna see probably movement of people around the United States, more libertarian states, more authoritarian, more left or right, because the left and right tend to be more authoritarian, and some centrist states raising in the next decade. I don't know. I believe that is what we're going to see. And people will start migrating as groups like this, segregating, different from any other things before, race or any other thing, will be political views, I guess, is the next revolution.
How
we all
confident?
getting more close to political conversations in the last decade, and we all feeling like almost pulled into this thing. So
And
I don't know. I think
how confident do you feel with this prediction of how things are gonna go?
oh, not at all. It's just like a guessing.
It's not like you're not
I
like
think that
certain.
was an interesting. No, I think it could be good. Like what I think, if it happens, it could be good, could be bad. Imagine if they do make super woke states that with all this identitarianism and cancel culture and stuff, and even anti-racism, like
Right.
this anti-racist program that I
Mhm.
feel that is very racist. I don't know. I think it would be interesting. I hope it doesn't cause civil wars, more splits, more crash, more segregation. But it could be, just because we are more free to do stuff. If in the libertarian spectrum, and honestly speaking, you cannot deny that maybe would end up having a Nazi state, that they all like Richard
Right.
Spencer, like
If
supporting Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, because they are all racist, and they like, yeah, you guys stay there. You guys stay there. We like to be in our little group separated. I don't know. Maybe it could work. In the end, maybe they would be happy. Is that would be pragmatic to say that is good just because they are happy in the end, I guess. I don't know.
depends on whose perspective, right? Maybe I suppose part of the function of the government in many cases is try to make as much people as possible somewhat happy, maybe, and all the enforcements and invasions of freedom sometimes try to kind of do that, as opposed to this natural evolution of individual freedoms that you describe, maybe, or not really. You don't see it that way. I mean,
I don't know.
Government exists for some reason, right? And it evolved for some reason, right?
Well, look, it's complicated to say. I think we have to watch out how the government goes when you talk about democracy and the majority deciding over the minority. Because if tomorrow we all just have 60% of the population that believes we should lock down for the next 10 years, because of Corona,
Right.
then we're going to all be forced to do. And if you go out, they are going to arrest you. First, they're going to fine you. Then they're going to arrest you. Then they're going to shoot you if you don't comply.
Escalating, yeah.
When they come to arrest you, if you resist, the ultimately thing, they're going to shoot you and you bow out. Okay, so that, it's a very realistic, crude idea, but that is what the government is doing there. Supposed to protecting you. And my idea is like, I don't think the government should be allowed to hurt you with the excuse of protecting you.
Right, that makes sense.
Never.
And
that should be the principle. The principle is the individual. So when it starts hurting me, you stop their government. And I think we all being hurt with those measures. So we should be more like, no, we're going to give recommendations. We're going to let the people take their risks. And we're going to even let some places be completely free and maybe see the natural history of the disease, how it actually is going to go, if it's really bad or if it's like
And
many people believe, even doctors, that would not be that bad.
and if the government stopped enforcing masks and then it turned out, for example, that more people start dying, lots of more people, well, so be it, I guess. Is your view, considering we are protecting the freedoms, and if it's that
It's
bad, people should
difficult to
start
do
wearing them
analysis of
voluntarily?
one isolated factor because then we would
Right,
have to
right.
do, like, scientifically speaking and methodologically speaking about the study to, like, we
Yeah.
would have to do measures different. We would have to say, like, first of thing, we have like a complete lockdown. We're gonna just release the lockdown and see if that one measure gonna increase. Then the lockdown, to release the lockdown with the mask was not bad. Let's let go of the masks and see what is this for the next 2-3 weeks, and it would have to have a period of time in isolation that we can't really do or ever was able to do because we don't really stop people even on the lockdown from coming and going, completely.
Okay.
And we had, I would say that it's very difficult to make any analysis like that. What we could see looking backwards is that even in, like I said, in January, there were many doctors talking about how the number of the diagnosed was under 20%.
The number of
Diagnosed of corona. What that means is that the number of infected people reduced a lot. It's not a real number, it's much reduced than the real, and that would be the denominator of the number of death rate that is so scary. What would be fakely increasing or overestimating the death rate, that is the thing they keep putting on all the clickbaits to scare anybody. At least from the beginning they stopped that, and now they keep focusing on, like, the number of infections or the number of people dying. In Brazil, now what they talk is like the number of people dead per day. And I was like, but how many people die in general? Did it increase in the mortality rate in a year after a year of corona? It didn't. There are so many other analyses that could be done that would be much more optimistic than the same thing about just talking about numbers and scaring people. Okay. That's one of my...
So, in our usual sessions, we go 25 minutes. We are at an hour. And so the thing I would ask at this point in our usual SE practice would be, could the questioner, could Hooky give us a summary of Fanny's position, reflect it back? Some people call this steel manning, but I use steel man in a very specific way. So I'll call it reflecting. Could you reflect back and make sure that she agrees? And of course, if he gets it wrong, you can fix it.
Yeah. Okay. So I would summarize it as Fanny values individual freedom a lot, probably a bit more than lots of people, and that's where lots of disagreements come from. So she thinks the government shouldn't be invading people's freedom to choose what they need to do. So in many cases, people think, the government should protect us and prevent drunk driving, prevent people going without masks. Many people think that, but Fanny is more like, I value my individual freedom, my freedom to choose to do those things or not. And I think she believes society would kind of arrange itself and evolve and self-manage if we increase the individual freedoms. So in a way, this is not like saying, people should drunk drive and kill themselves and let everyone die of corona. No, it's more like, if you give us freedom, we will nurture our curiosity, our capacity to be critical thinking, and be more responsible for our actions and whatnot. So then it might work. We could increase the individual freedoms, and society doesn't need to be full of corona death and drunk driving crashes. No, we could do fine with more individual freedoms. So I think I would summarize it as that, and valuing individual freedom.
It's really good. It's definitely a pretty good summary of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's pretty good, Dali. You're right. He's a good.
He is really good.
He's a good SEer to go.
Indeed.
Thank you.
So thank you all for coming to this. If you have feedback, throw it in the live show text. Come over to the Discord and tell us, because we're there and happy to talk to you. Hooky is an example of one of the dozen or so really good practitioners that are part of our SE practice on the Discord on the weekends. And we are also training up some additional co-hosts because there have been requests for practices to happen during the week as well. So come on over to the SE Discord and do some of this with us. Thank you all. FK, could you switch us to the outro scenes? I'll take whichever one you like first. I was going to talk to you about the website.
Hi people,
Street
my name is Fanny
Epistemology
Anzai,
International.
and this is my channel.
That's
and if you're here,
they bring you the
we
website
probably already shared a few
streetepistemology.com, which is one of my favorite places.
Hi people, my name is Fanny Anzai, and this is my channel. And if you're here, we probably already shared a few interests, and if not, I still think you're gonna find a lot of fun, because I'm gonna be sharing here pretty much everything that I do and I am, including
Stream a week going. Thank you.